You are now entering the Thick Goddess Energy Morning Show. We in the building. High priestess in the building, didn't let my fears kill me. Transmuted my pain in that cleanse in the rain. Found out I was working and I conquered my demons. I accepted my purpose and the goddess I became. And we are live. Good morning.
Good morning.
I know some people this morning were like, is she really live? Or am I just talking to myself? Is she really live? Yes, we were live the other day, but yesterday, because technically today is December 8th. Good morning, you guys. This is the Thick Goddess Energy Morning Show. I am your host, Divine Moon Goddess, and this is my co-host, which maybe I should display our names. We're co-empress in the building. I have been like I feel like this month is going by super freaking fast.
It is.
I feel like it's just one of those things. It's creeping, and then like, oh my God, we're already on the 7th. Like, where the hell did the year go by? And it's kind of like, I just feel like it's going to be nonstop for the rest of this month.
I was going to say, I feel like the creator is punishing me for procrastinating.
You know, and it's like you see it, because when you wait for the last minute, you know, like, I'm gonna be real, I waited to the last minute to try to handle some stuff with the DMV with my license expired this year, right? And then, you know, I went on this vacation, couldn't get it done before I went on vacation because Thanksgiving, like, let me go to the DMV the day before Thanksgiving. Or 2 days. I think I went 2 days before Thanksgiving thinking I was going to actually do anything. And then there was no appointments, you know, available for the rest of the week. And of course they were closed, you know, it was like the holiday weekend. And then I went on vacation. So of course, coming back, having to like deal with shit last minute. So I can't even blame no one but my damn self. And it's like, but now, you know, it's done, it's over with. And I just went ahead and did my registration for my car for 2 years. I was like, you know what? I don't even want to deal with this shit next year. I don't even want to have to deal with this shit coming up to my birthday. I don't want to have to worry about it. So I was like, can I just do 2 years? And I'm always like, but what if I don't have the car? You know, that's why you do year by year. But I'm like, okay, this is the 3rd year with the car. I think you may have this car another year. Like, just fucking do it for the next 2 years. Like, because I'm not going to do any kind of trades or anything like that. I'm actually so over a fucking car payment. It's ridiculous.
I like your car, though. Your car is roomy and it goes where it needs to go and it's clean. So it works.
I love it, but I don't love that car payment. Like, I'm going to be honest. My car payment is over $600. That's a lot. Just the car payment. You know, I did barely put any money down, though. So that's why my car payment is ridiculous.
My grandparents did that, though, and that was like the best thing they could do because they were done with their payments. Like, within a couple of years, it was over, it was done. And then they did that too on the car that I had. And when my daughter got into that accident, that's why they got so much money. They got like $10,000 back after the car was paid off because that's how they did it. So
right.
I think it's a good thing. Yeah. If you can do it, do it.
Yeah. I mean, because I didn't put shit down on it. So that's why the car payment was higher. So, you know, I've never walked off the lot with a $500 down type shit. It was like, wait, what is going on here? So, although I'm not a fan of the car payments, I'm even like, I would love a different car, but I'm like, I don't want the car payments. And so I'm over halfway paid with my car now. So I'm like, yeah, I'll pretty much be done in like, you know, 2 years. So I don't want to tack on another one. Who knows what I'll be feeling in 2 years, but how I feel now, I'm like, fuck this car payment. You know, it's the insurance too, because every year the insurance, they just kind of jack it up higher, higher. And it's like, why is my shit going up? I haven't had an accident in years. Like I literally have not had an accident since like 2016 when someone rear-ended me and it wasn't even my fault. So you mean to tell me every year my insurance still goes up even though I don't get into an accident? And there's like, but it's Florida. And Florida is like one of the capital of insurance fraud, apparently. Um,
Oh,
so we get dinged with our insurance is crazy. And it's because it's like I don't know if it's the number one or number two. I think Las Vegas is like the other one that has
I
high
wasn't sure.
insurance fraud. So it's just
I used
like,
to
no.
check my insurance. I used to use my grandpa's address because it was like out in the country, so
Mhm.
it was cheaper
Right.
than it would be for the city. I'd do that.
Right. I need to just go buy a house somewhere where the fucking insurance is like $2 a month and just use that as
I
my home base and I just travel.
Yeah, and it took me years to figure out that your zip code has a lot to do with insurance
Yes.
rates. I did not know
Yes.
that. I was like, oh, okay.
There was a neighborhood that my daughter lived in here in Orlando. And I was in the process of giving her my car. And so we were going to switch over, because I had just paid the car off. The car was paid. It was a car before this one. And when I called them, they would not even offer the insurance for the neighborhood. That's how
Oh,
shitty it was. They were just like, they don't service that area. They were just denied, denied. And I was like, wait, what? I've never heard that.
never heard of that. Like what?
They, yeah. And so unfortunately, it wasn't horrible, but it was very huge on break-ins, very huge on theft and break-ins. So it was just like, oh shit. So now I'm like, yeah, I need to find that like country place, just have that as my home base of
Yeah,
everything, right? As the corporate office. You know how the corporate office is always in some fucking tiny ass little city and shit. And you're like, I wonder why is it always in this
yeah.
backwoods ass city? Well, now I know why. It's cheaper. The taxes are cheaper, all the fees are
Mm-hmm.
fucking cheaper if you go to this little backwoods and have your home office there, but then you can branch out
Yep.
and have your other branches. And I was like, okay, I'm getting on to you guys. I'm getting on to you guys. And the other thing they do is they always ask you, are you a nurse? Do you have a
You
home?
gotta learn.
And I'm like, no. So if I don't have any degree by my name, I don't get a fucking discount. Like,
Nope.
are you trying to say if I don't own my
Nope.
home, I don't get a discount? Damn, that's rough. It's rough.
Nope.
Um, so today we are talking about what the hell is a spiritual awakening.
Right.
And the I want to say there's a couple points that I'm going to make this morning on spiritual awakening because I do feel it's sad that we have a lot of misinformation and we have a lot of I think misguided gurus out there that I think
Mm-hmm.
kind of hinder the path more than help sometimes. But I think it all at the end of the day, if you look at your path and you look back at it, you probably can appreciate the bullshit as well because it taught you something.
Yes.
Um, I would love, like, it sounds good to come on this path and just say, oh, if everything would have just worked out smoothly and this, I'd be where I'm at. But then that isn't really a spiritual awakening, right? What do you feel about the term spiritual awakening anyway? Because we hear it all the time. Oh, I had my spiritual awakening. I've been awoken. I'm
Well, number
awakened.
one, I hate the term woke because it's like everybody has this term now. They've turned woke into everything, whether it be just everyone is woke now, right? Everyone is finally woke, and it's like no,
We're
we always
awakened.
were, or not. We always were, but we always had the potential, and we can't. You can't place that label on everything. But I feel like it's just become this really cool culture thing. Like, oh,
Right,
everybody's
right,
woke, so I
right.
hate that. The spiritual awakening, it gets me because I do know from experience that everything has an awakening to it, right? Like we kind
Right.
of it's the aha moment of your path at times. But I hate thinking that it's this new awakening because for me it's more of a conscious thinking because I've always had the awakening. I've always
Mhm.
questioned certain things. I've always known I've had abilities. I've always known something was different. I've always known, um, but it was like I finally kind of had this aha moment that
Mhm.
allowed me to realize that I was having these conscious thoughts that I
Right.
wasn't processing correctly, or
Right.
that I wasn't thinking twice about.
Right.
So I hope everyone is woke now. Everyone had this spiritual awakening, and I feel like we've always had it. We've always
Right.
had it. It's always been there. If you look at your life, like all these lessons, all these tower moments, all these dreams, all these feelings, all these intuitions, all these gifts
Right.
have always been there,
Right.
but we never took 10 minutes to process our thoughts because we were
Right.
so busy living in the present instead of living fluidly or giving ourselves 10 minutes a day just to meditate and think and clear our mind and process what was
Right.
happening.
Right. The lack of knowledge, even
Mm-hmm.
behind all of that. Because that's one of the biggest questions is like, when did you have your spiritual awakening? And people, I think what we refer to as awakening or woke, being woke, is the term when you finally decide to switch from whatever your reality was before.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think, of course, looking back, there's all of these signs that were leading up to this point of truly switching from whatever my, traditions or I say reality was. Because, like I said, all of my life, there's been stuff since I was little.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't know. I didn't have the proper training. I didn't have the proper guidance. I was told it was just monsters in my room to go to sleep, even though I can feel the breath outside of my covers, and my covers were my blanket, my shield, and I remember that clear as day.
Mm-hmm.
I remember lucid dreaming, my mom even, concurred I slept walk. So this is not something that just, happened a couple years ago and boom, you're awakening. If you look, of course, it's always been there, but I think when we talk about the spiritual awakening, it's when you truly decide to cross over into a new existence with your consciousness. I would say that is more for me what I feel like a spiritual awakening is, because I do feel like we've always had it. We've always somehow, somewhere walked or had superstitions or believed in other things. I was always into astrology, even when I was younger, didn't go as
Mm-hmm.
deep as I am now, but I was always very fascinated with astrology and zodiacs and the stars and space and the moon. I was the kid that always looked at the moon when I was little. Never realized the connection with the moon. And then now I'm hearing divine moon goddess and shit, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But I do feel I think we have a bunch of small spiritual awakenings. I feel like we have a bunch of small awakenings that concur throughout our life, showing us something is we're not fitting in to the masses, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't belong in this day-to-day shit. Like something's hitting you constantly, whether you're feeling out of place, whether you feeling like that missing like I talk about this feeling of just feeling like I was missing something. Something I couldn't put my hand on it, couldn't figure it out. I went through majority of my life feeling like I was missing something, like I wasn't home. Like I just
Right.
a place, this emptiness of something, but not sure what it was. Kids didn't fill that up. Relationship didn't fill that up. It was just this constant like, why the fuck am I here? Even when I was, 14, I was about to commit suicide. That was my first suicide attempt, which I did it in silent. No one ever knew. I never talked about it. Even afterward, I never talked about it, up until now in this path where I openly talk about it. But it was something at 14 that, I started to cut my wrist in the bathroom because I just did not want to be here anymore. Um, and I am going to do an episode where we talk about suicide because I do want to touch that topic. Because every time I think about that moment, which of course, now where I'm at now, I'm like, man, if you just, you just needed to see, like, you were going to get there. You're going to get to a better space, or you were going to find yourself. um so I do think it's a touchy topic, but once, of course, when you get to your adulthood, I do feel like we got to talk about that. I think we got to talk about that, but
I
let's go
know,
back to
because you and I have two different points of view, so that'll be kind of fun.
we definitely do. We definitely do, and I do want to touch that. So, just going back to spiritual awakening, what
So
are
this
like?
book says awakening is the process of becoming aware of your energy, the energy
Mhm.
around you, and how to use this energy to create a life that feels fulfilling and connected. It's the process of discovering why you are here, who you really are, and your infinite potential.
Which is why I don't feel like I don't feel like what we all think is the spiritual awakening
Mhm.
is it, because that part of your authentic self does not come when you first get into your path.
And
You don't even
yeah,
know who you are.
it's like a huge energy shift that comes, and I don't think you technically know why at first. I don't know if
Yeah.
you ever know why, because I don't even know if I've kind of figured out why. I kind of think I know why, but it's kind of like, well,
Well, I've seen some people who they're like, they know what their path is. They know what they came
mhm,
here to do. They're up there. They've elevated to that level. And I think it takes time to get there though. That's why I think that first, like, I used to think I had this spiritual awakening in 2019. But when I think about it, I'm like, no, that was just like the tower moment shift to my path. But I didn't know who the fuck I was in 2019.
mhm,
I talk about it all the time. I
yeah,
thought I was going to be this YouTube tarot reader. Like, I didn't know that I was going to shift into who I am today, 3 years later. Like, what the hell?
yeah.
So I think that is a misconception. Like, you just have this one, spiritual, I'm awakened now. Let me just go frolic in the, let me
Yeah,
just go frolic in the
frolic with
sun.
Mother Gaia through the woods like a fairy. Yeah, no.
No, you go through the dark night of the soul, the fucking how many ego deaths that you have to go through, because you are literally stripping layers of a false
Yeah,
identity.
I do think it's a process, though. I do think it's a huge process, and I don't think that everyone, I'm always twisted or stuck between past lives and reincarnation. But if
Right,
there
right.
is one, I don't believe that you always get it on your first try either. I think a lot of
Mm,
times it's one of those things where you might have to come back. Not saying that you have to come back and relive all the pain or the mistakes you've made, but lessons come with life, of course. But um, just that this lifetime that I'm going to become so consciously aware of myself and my surroundings and my path could
right.
be because I do dig deep for a lot of it, but I don't think it happens that way for a lot of people. I think it's like lifetimes of
Oh,
trying to
yeah.
figure out
Oh, yeah.
exactly what's
Oh, yeah.
happening.
I think that's why when you're looking at time, and you can literally name the kind of great people who shifted the population. You can name them. You could probably name them on like one hand. Not to say there isn't many great people, but you literally don't have that many. And because I feel like you do have to, it takes a certain level. Like, even I've been watching, I want to say his name is Sadhguru. I probably always fuck up his name.
Sanguru, SADU, right? Isn't it SADU? And then
It's
the
I know it's
last,
pronounced not how it's spelled. Okay.
yes, I know who you're talking about. The old man.
The old man. And
The old man.
he's awesome to watch. And if you guys don't know who I'm talking about, just let me know. I'm always posting him everywhere. I'm always posting a video of him. Because he really picks apart the most trivial things that we are constantly bitching over or going over. And it's just like one of those things where, to get to that space to where nothing bothers you, like, literally, like, I've seen so many interviews with him, And people be just kind of trying to pick apart everything that he believes in, right?
Yeah.
And he's just so fucking calm, cracking jokes and shit. And it's like, I want to get there where I can
I
just be
really
here.
like
You can
him.
say whatever. And I'm just like, you know, where nothing fucking pisses me off. But
I
I'm not there
really
yet.
like him, and I can't think of the man's name that used to work with. I think he's in Honduras. He used to work with Left Eye, who really started
Mm,
putting her on her path. Can't think of his name.
I don't
He's
remember
another
anything.
one too that is just so like peaceful, and everyone just tries to like
Right.
discredit or say this or that. And he's got his big following, but he's just always like, whatever.
Right.
Okay, you don't believe me? Fuck it, do it. Bye.
Well,
It's
one
like,
of the
oh,
things I will tell you, one of the things that I see in all of them, of one of the things is they've detached to the identity, our ego. They've detached
mhm,
from that part of needing to prove shit. That part of the ego that needs to prove. Well, I need to prove that I'm right. I need to prove that what I'm
mhm,
saying is true. They've surpassed that in a way where it's like, believe me, don't believe me, doesn't make me none. It's like, that's your life.
mhm.
And I think that on the spiritual path, that a lot of it is that where you have to go through all of these deaths. You really have to detach because you're not authentic. Anyone who thinks that first spiritual awakenings is your spiritual awakening, excuse me, I think we have the false information. They should say steps to awakening is what they should call it.
Mhm.
Steps to awakening, like
Yep.
you get the first 20, because some people get what, 100 fucking tower moments before they decide it's pretty damn shit big.
Probably. I mean, I've only had about 100 in 1 year, but
I can think back to several tower moments that shifted my path, and I still didn't get it.
Exactly. I remember the tower used to come up in all my readings. Now it's turned to justice or judgment, but
Especially in the
but
first
I do
year.
remember like all these tower moments in my readings, even, and I'd be like,
Right. And in the first year, it was like, please, no more towers. Like, please, can I just make it through this
yeah,
year with no more
yeah,
towers? And mine were very emotional towers. Like, I didn't have to worry about like the roof over my head or anything, but the emotional impact that I got in that first year, that was
huge.
harsh, to
Yeah.
say the least. So when we're like, what the hell is a spiritual awakening? And you guys want to know, let me tell you, there's steps to this. There's not just some original spiritual awakening that I woke up. I did have a moment in 2019 where I was batshit fucking crazy for a moment, about to check myself into the mental hospital. I was losing my
Mhm.
fucking mind, and I didn't have anybody to turn to because I didn't have anyone who really believed, or not to say believe, because I did have some people who watched tarot or was into occult, you know, a little bit, but no one that understood what I was going through, the madness in my head in the moment. And I felt very alone and very closed off, and like I was losing my damn mind. Um, and I think that's part of the process, though, because I've gone through a lot of smaller versions of that since that moment, which in normal
So for
people's
you,
reality, that
do
would
you
be a
think
mental
your
breakdown.
do you think your awakening moment was um what do I want to say? How am I trying to word this? Do you think that once you kind of got past that, like that tarot moment, right? Because that's what kind of sparked the interest, was like, you're in this kind of shitty place and you find tarot and it's like, ooh, this is really cool, or this is help giving
Right,
me guidance, or whatever it is. Or you just, some people
right.
just have this weird obsession with it, whatever. But but do you think after that, do you think your process was more of like peeling back all those ugly layers be-
I
of
don't think in the beginning it was. In
it?
the
Do you think
beginning,
it like,
it
so
was,
instead of it starting out so beautiful, it started out kind of like shitty?
I think
Like you
for
just
me in
started
the beginning,
focusing
it
on
was
the
going
nasty.
down the rabbit hole of craziness. You know, tarot kind of opened up a new door. Even though I knew about it, I had heard about it, but it was like going down this whole, like going to Oz, going to this whole other place of stuff. So for me in the beginning, I don't think I was doing a lot of peeling back the layers just yet because I was just so interested in it and it was interesting
Mhm.
and I wanted to know more. I would say it wasn't until 2020 where I realized that, well, I knew I needed to heal, though. It wasn't like it was a surprise that I needed to heal. Like I knew I needed to heal. I knew I was struggling with, the grief of death and the other things that have happened in my life. So 2020, I had did this AMP training is what it's called, AMP training. And because I had recently started the group and I felt like, now I was like this leader of this group and I was like wanting to learn more about managing or maybe working with people on a different level. And so, from a roundabout way, this lady at work, her son was very spiritual, and the AMP training is actually very spiritual, but they do it in a way where it doesn't come off spiritual. So I went in thinking I'm going to get like this push, needed push in that way. And I ended up realizing that I was a victim. That's what was the first realization that I was a fucking victim in my own reality, that I was still the poor me, the look what happened to me. I was a victim of circumstance. And that I think was that kind of switch of the starting to peel back the layers because then right after that I did the past life regression, and then I teamed up with Cynthia Glickman, who was one of the first healers that I actually really, besides the past life regression. And then that July I had did a session with Deanna, which was the chakra clearing. It was just one thing after another. I was just kind of hitting. Also in the summer I had did Cynthia's ascension program and I just was
Mhm.
kind of hitting, and it was just like one thing after another of when is this going to end. I remember feeling like that. When does this end? Like when do I get to the part of ascension? Like when the fuck do I climb this ladder? Because it felt like no matter how much that I did, there was like another layer. And I got tired of hearing that fucking saying from people. Oh, it's an onion and you just got to peel it back, which I say it to people now, but I was so pissed off to hear it. And I'm just like, how many fucking layers are there? Like, I used to get very
Mhm.
irritated in 2020 about the shit, and very mad. And I remember even in a session with Cynthia, and I remember crying, and I remember just like, how many more times do I need to cry? Like I was irritated. Like how many more times do I need to cry? Like if I cry one more time, I'm gonna fucking lose my shit. You know what I mean?
So, do you think you can have, or not say, do you think you can have, because I know we can have. But I guess I'm just going to ask it for show purposes, right? Do you think you can have like the spiritual awakening, but already be spiritual or religious? And
Yeah.
once you get that, do you think it becomes confusing for people when they already feel like they found God or they found the Lord or Jesus or whoever they're,
Right.
Allah or whoever it is? Do you think they
Right.
sometimes become confused or like they're, I don't want to say sinning, I guess, against their religion when they feel like they're
Hmm.
finding something, finding
Right. Right.
that
Right.
new
Right.
awakening?
Yeah. See, that's why I don't
Or they're
feel like
betraying their religion. I guess I should say their path or the religious path, whatever it
right.
is.
I will say I don't believe anybody in the beginning, no matter where they're at in the beginning, is spiritually awakened. I think we use that term too lightly, and I don't think it happens in the beginning because, especially in a point when you're coming from like a religious background or something, and you're struggling with the detachment of the one God or
Mhm.
one religion to now I can speak to angels and I can speak to goddesses and I can speak to Jesus if he comes, and I can speak to all these different, and do the divination part of it. And you're still having that trouble of
Mhm.
accepting your path. You're definitely not authentic, right? The whole point of being a spirit, like awakened, is that you're authentic to who you are, your being,
Mhm.
right? I don't even think I'm 100% who I am yet. there's still parts of me that I'm finding on this journey. And I think maybe that's it, changing the term or the terminology that we use. Instead of spiritually awakened, maybe that I started my journey or some way of switching it, because
Mhm.
I don't think we're as awakened as we fucking think we are. I think in the beginning we're very closed minded still. And then we become these little spiritual, egotistical spiritualists in the beginning, because there was moments, where I would have to check myself, because I would be like, yeah, look at these other people, they're asleep.
Mhm.
I'm awake in their sleep. They're still the rats in the hamster wheel, and
Right.
I'm over here awake like I'm fucking special or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have to change the terminology. I don't think it's a spiritual awakening and poof, you're awoke. I think you go through a journey of transition. Um, However it sparks, because everyone has that something that happens that sparks, or pushes you to change or grow or to branch out from what you knew. Um, and then you start to learn who you are, and then you start to strip away those layers of ugliness, of traditions, of hurt, of pain,
Mhm.
of all of that stuff, until you get to the core piece of you. And I don't think any of us yet have that understanding of who we truly are. We do have our identity here, but we know that most of that is false, and it's built on a bunch of lies from our childhood on up, right? So
Mhm.
once we keep taking that and taking away what we've kind of connected to, whether it be material things, whether it be belief systems, pre-programming, right? All of this shit that we have inside, then we start getting to the good stuff. Then we start getting to the authenticity of self. And that's when we get out of the ego box, because we've been in that ego box way too long.
Yeah, I think it's hard for I mean, just thinking for myself, I think it would be hard for me to some people do grow up very devotedly Christian, Catholic,
Right.
whatever it is, and they think that they've um or they know, I can't say think because maybe they did. Maybe they've kind of they know that religion. They know it's like the back of their hand to them. You know what is expected and how to follow. And then you do sometimes you get like these angels or these spirits or you
Right.
certain things and then you kind of wonder if you're betraying
Right.
what it is that you've already come to know.
Right. Right.
And it's I think for a lot of people I think a lot of people make people feel like they have to choose one when I don't feel
Right.
like that.
I don't
The
think you
thing, I
do.
think that awakening, definitely, I think there people need to word things differently. I feel like awake, awoke, woke, whatever, has become so huge with anybody. But
Right.
um, I think sometimes that spark, that aha moment, is just being able to process your path because your path isn't technically the path that religion has taught you, right? That's the
Right.
religious path, that's the
Right.
Bible, that's how we're supposed to live. But is that your purpose? Because I
Right.
think everyone has their own divine purpose, right? Everyone. And so I feel like sometimes that confuses people, but I hate that. I do hate the word woke. Everybody is woke. Everybody's woke
Well,
now.
on some level, when it comes to that, feeling like you have to choose, the thing about it is everybody's path is unique to them. Whether you are
Mhm.
religious or spiritual, there is no difference to me. You're practicing whatever you feel called to practice. So if you get called to practice Christianity or be a Muslim, or if you're called to Catholicism or Jewish or however your faith is, there, the biggest thing to understand for me is whatever your belief system is, believe it. Just don't feel like you have to push it down on someone else so that they now have to take it on as their belief system. And I think
Mhm.
that's what people miss in it. It's not, spirituality is not taken away from anybody's religion. You are free to practice whatever you want to practice. If you choose, and unfortunately, most people that go into spirituality are mad at God. Let's be honest, right? There's a
Right.
huge, large populace of people who go into spirituality because they have renounced their religion, angry at God, or they're seeking answers that traditional religions aren't providing for some way, shape, or form. And so we go into the this I'm spiritual, not religious, because you don't want to tie
Mm-hmm.
yourself to those belief systems, which is again okay. I don't think anyone should feel like they need to renounce their religion to be spiritual. I think that you can practice both. I think that you can still pray to your saints. I think you can still pray to your angels. And one of the things I will say is, I um, thought that you could only talk to angels if you were religious, in the beginning. And because I
Oh
was
yeah,
not a religious
he's one of
person,
those.
I used to think that, and then until I connected with Archangel Metatron and Archangel Michael, and that was just like it blew my mind that I would even have
Mm-hmm.
a connection like that. And I thought you could only, but what I came to realize just doing my research and connecting with them, the information that they gave me is that they are in this realm. This realm, they are protectors in this realm. Like if we went to a different realm, there would be some other, you know, um,
Mm-hmm.
angelic or some type of force, but they happen to be in this realm. And you don't have to be religious to call on them. You don't have to go that route. I think the bad thing is a lot of people in religion, of course, what I hear most is that the story, if you don't believe in Jesus, especially Christianity, and him dying for all of our sins, you're going to suffer and go to hell. And that was probably one of my biggest pet peeves, even when I was younger, even when I
Mm-hmm.
still believed in God. One of the biggest pet peeves is I had was when someone would walk to me, and if I said I wasn't religious, I was automatically going to jail. I mean, not jail, going to hell. And it's like, so you don't even know me from anywhere. You don't know how I live my life. But just because I don't believe that Jesus is my savior, I'm going to go to hell. I just felt so like that would always get to me. And I would be like, if I'm a good person, if I'm generally a good person in my life, if I don't do anything bad, if all I do is help people and I'm loving and I'm caring and I'm kind and I do something great in this world to help others, you mean to tell me I'm still going to hell? And then my other thing would be because I'm a rebel like
Mm-hmm.
that, so I always want to challenge someone. I love to debate. Like, let's get it, let's debate, right? And so my next one is: do you mean to tell me the people that were born in a different country, they didn't have a choice of where they were born? They were born in a different country. You mean to tell me because they were born in a different country, they're going to hell automatically because they don't believe in the same religion?
Yeah, mine was the babies that weren't baptized, because apparently, according to Catholic religion, the way that I understand, because my grandparents are Catholic, um,
Right,
that even though I've accepted, like on the Christian part, where you see that man on the corner and you accept Lord Jesus as your
right.
what is it called, my Lord and
Emmanuel.
Savior or whatever. But
Right.
apparently, because I'm not baptized or my kids aren't, that if you're not baptized, apparently you don't go to heaven either. You hang out in limbo. You don't go to hell, but you hang out in like this limbo. So that
Purgatory.
was always an issue to me too. I'm like, so all the babies who die just kind of float around, and my grandma would be like, "Well, I guess so." Oh,
Right, right.
okay. This
It's
isn't
just like,
okay. So
I can't get that. Like that part doesn't stick with me. It's like, wait, what?
So
What's even wrong
yeah,
with
that always
him?
confused me. I was like,
I
so I'm
told
just
one guy,
gonna.
I said, no disrespect to Jesus. I feel like what he stood for was showing people how to have compassion in the
Yes.
face of an enemy. And people took that and took it to where they fucking wanted to take it. But I've made people mad because I've said I'm one of the people who don't need Jesus to save me in this life. And that's no disrespect to him or his teachings. It's just that I found a way to save myself. I found a way to save myself from my own suffering. Why is that a bad thing? Why am I going to hell because of that? And then you get the, well, who do you think you are? Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, it's a crime to save yourself? Like,
To say
what?
stuff.
Why the fuck is that wrong?
Yeah.
So when we're going through this spiritual awakening and spirituality and switching over, you guys, you never have to switch to anything. The
No.
biggest thing what spirituality is finding your authentic self. If your authentic self is crusading in the name of Jesus, then by all means get it.
Right.
There we've never been, especially on my platform, we've never been a coercion or a converter uh propaganda to get you to convert to shit, right?
Anything. Right. Yeah.
So you got to understand that it's finding your authentic self and
Well,
whatever
I
that
really
looks
like this
like.
because it says to create this level shift in your life, you have to be ready and willing to stand up and take responsible for your every thought, experience, and feeling. You
Right,
have to be willing to take ownership over your life, face your fears, and understand that your happiness is only yours to control.
right. Which is a big part of my belief system. I'm all into the we shape our reality.
We do.
I do believe it. I do believe we have a huge part on how we live. Now we can't control everything that happens in life, and there's some shitty things that happen to us, but it we have all the control on how we react to every situation. We can allow something to fuck us up, or we can allow it to help us shape or mold or grow or change the world some way, somehow. And I do believe that wholeheartedly. Um, but it's all about what we make of it. And, it's just been this little of, like I said, having that ego still there in the beginning of the path. You're not authentic. You're not awakened. You are still very much closed off and pre programmed in this, kind of closed off mind. You're just a little bit in the spiritual community. But I say it all the time. It wasn't until this year that I really had those epiphanies that I was a big part of the problem in my life, not a solution.
Mhm.
Even though I wasn't blaming anybody, I still had this way about me of whether it was the way I react, letting my emotions get the best of me, not taking those times to just breathe before I react in the situation, whatever. And it's getting to that point to realize like, oh shit, you have to assume that control over you, whether you're petty, right? Whether you're petty or not, we all have the energy to be petty,
Yeah.
but it's like, okay, let me shake it off.
Yeah.
Let me shake off my pettiness today. but but owning it. And the other part that I realized when we started to really get more in depth with some of the goddess stuff, um, I realized like I was trying to apologize for a lot of my behavior, or have this apology for just being me, or it was just something that clicked this earlier this year where it was just like, why am I sorry because sometimes I'm offensive? You know what I mean? Like, why am I
Mhm.
sorry because I pissed somebody else off in this moment? Why am I sorry because I'm the trigger for someone else? Like, no, fuck that. Like, no, you do yourself a disservice. And this is where we get into the finding who we truly are and what we came to do. I remember going through most of my path, like, I don't know what kind of healer I am. And people
Mhm.
asking me that, like, what kind of healer are you? I don't fucking know.
Good question, ma'am. Can I
I
get
don't
back to
know.
you?
Can I just sprinkle pixie dust and voila, that's it? Maybe that's the healer I am. And I just remember like it was like, oh well, it's like you got to choose something.
Yeah.
Is it Reiki? What do you do? And it's like, Reiki doesn't call to me. I don't know. I have no fucking idea what the hell I'm supposed to do with this healer ability. I
Mhm.
will figure it out one day. And I think we're pressured to have to choose, even coming through with spell work. It's like, so do you practice voodoo? Are you Santeria? Are you this? And it's Wicca. And it's like, what if I'm none of these? What if I don't fit
Mhm.
into any of this shit? The fuck? Maybe I just need to
Yeah.
make an unknown religion.
Well, I think that's the thing is, all these things from our ancestors are coming out, right? All these secret practices are coming out.
Right.
So everyone kind of is like gravitating towards something, but I think that's just, we always talk about that is everyone has to feel like they have to put a label on something. They have to be
Right.
something, they have to fit into this group or that group, and it's like, I don't fit into any of them. I'll just,
Right.
kind of take a little bit of this, take a little bit of that. But I think
Right.
that's the thing is everyone feels like they have to have this thing. And if you don't
Right.
have this thing or you don't have this label, it makes you less than or less than special, or it makes your path, um, or you're confused because you don't know what you are. So your path is
Right.
doesn't mean as much right now, or you kind of got to
Right.
figure that out before you can move forward. And I think the thing that people don't realize is in our past history, for most of us, especially colored people or minorities,
Right.
brown skinned people, even the Asians, things like that, is our culture is so mixed up.
Right.
Is so mixed up.
Hmm.
From slave owners, from nations combining with other nations, from
Right.
you know Pangea, whatever you want to call it, when it was like the Eskimos and the natives, and so our DNA is so screwed up
Right.
that I think somehow, some way, we just get a calling from
Right.
everywhere
Right.
at times. You know what I mean? It's just like, what are you talking about? Why would I feel even called to this? And then you look at certain things and you're like, oh, that's where that could come from, or
Right.
that's where that
Right.
ancestor pulling is coming from. So we
Right.
don't have a necessary strong rooted, only one kind of tradition,
Right.
where a lot of other races and cultures, kind of have that, that Celtic draw, that I don't
Right.
know, even, so don't quote me on any of this, y'all, but draw to being Irish or Roman, or
Right.
whatever it is. We don't have that because our culture and our race has just been so mixed up throughout these years that
So many.
our ancestors just seem to call from a little bit of
Everywhere.
everywhere. And
Everywhere.
I don't think I have to pick which one I want to hang out with. You know what I mean? I don't think if you have one that you are like super drawn to, and like these people make you feel comfortable, and this place makes you feel
Right.
comfortable, then great. You know what I mean? That's really
Right.
good. But I think for a long time, even me, I kind of fought that term witch, because what I
Right.
do is witchy, right?
Right.
I'm not Wiccan. I'm not pagan. I'm not
Right.
technically a witch, although in different terms, I guess you could be,
I
Hispanics
do have a
call it,
broom.
huh?
I do have a broom, a
Right.
cinnamon broom.
But Hispanics call it bruja, and people call it a witch doctor, and some people call it a shaman, and
Priestess. Yeah. Doctor.
priestess
Shaman.
and all this stuff. So, I just think it was like, everyone wanted to be, pagan or Wiccan, or they were doing, and I
Right.
don't, or I know I'm a part of a few groups that are witches, and then they talk about covens, and I'm like, I don't really want to be any part of a coven.
Right. It
But what
it
I do is witchy, right?
it
But it's just,
irritates me because you know how someone in religion gets the same slack, and you guys is
mhm,
no different coming over to spirituality because we get the same slack of like having to pick and choose one. Like you just can't be everything. You can't honor everyone. It's like you gotta choose. And in the beginning, I was in search of who are my people, who are my people, who is connected with me. And I do talk about my past life regression where my higher self was like, pick one, pick any. There are many. And at the time, I didn't get it. It pissed me off. I was like, really, higher self, the fuck, you know? But I get it
mhm,
now because after all this time, I get it where I literally can pick and choose who to call at any moment. I don't have to fucking just choose one. And one of the biggest issues I've had on this path is, especially coming from Cuban and Puerto Rican descent, is oh, are you crowned? Who's your godparents? And all this. And it's like, I follow my intuition and my dead great great grandmother is behind me somewhere, you know,
mhm,
like that's who I fucking, call on, or that's who I connect with. And that's one of the biggest things that I have struggled with because one, I do realize that, especially minorities background, our practices have been secret for hundreds of years because of the slave trade. We had to be in secret. We could not practice out in the open. You know, just like a lot of the witchy stuff was secret because of the Salem shit and the Salem trials and stuff like that. So we know that when it comes to those backgrounds, everyone's been very secretive. Um, and now it's where, you know, a lot of people are getting more mainstream with it. But that was one of my irritations, is this whole, like, you like, where's your paperwork? And I'm like, my great great grandmother didn't fucking get crowned into shit. She just was born into this as something
Mm-hmm.
for the family. So why now, after all these generations, would I need to go and now pay someone thousands of dollars to learn? Now, I don't mind paying someone to learn, but unfortunately, we
Yeah.
do know when it comes to the Afro cultured, spiritual, however you want to call it, we know that you can end up paying thousands of dollars to try to learn something, which it's sad
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, I wish I had my great great grandmother. I wish she had, or I wish my grandmother would have learned to pass the information down. So I did have someone to learn, instead of now, if I do want to learn, I either, luckily I have a lady on YouTube. So anyone wanting to learn Afro, Yoruba, things like that, there's a wonderful lady on YouTube who teaches. She does a lot of
Oh,
videos about stuff, and I've been watching her. Her name is I want to say it's Yemi, but I'm probably saying it wrong. Yayo Botanica. I think she's in Jersey. I actually, when I go to next time I go to Jersey, I'm going to go visit her store. But she's one of the kind of spiritualists that I have found that actually openly does videos and talks about a lot of the Afro Yoruba kind of religions and teaches. But for you to actually, someone like myself trying to get it, even like voodoo or hoodoo, you're ending up going to pay thousands of dollars and hope that you find someone who's
yeah.
willing to
That
teach
is
you.
it.
And I think it's kind of sad that that's where it has gone in our minority kind of basis, because
Yeah.
Wicca, if you go and look for Wicca, Wicca is very widely out there. You can go and literally find millions of fucking YouTube channels of Wicca. You can find millions of books, although, you know, there are some voodoo books and stuff like that. I started reading one that talks about goddesses, orishas, and stuff. But even that person who wrote that book, and I don't have her name in front of me, it talks about needing to be initiated, needing to be crowned, and all of this stuff. And I think it's unfortunate that we can't find people who are willing to teach, and not like make it a mortgage payment to learn your heritage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think
So
that's my pet peeves of spirituality too.
before we close out, I just want to say this so reminded me of I met this guy back in school. Um, I don't remember what class. I think it was urban education class that we took together. But his religion was Baha'i. And I actually had a Baha'i temple down the street from my old house. Baha'i is really beautiful to me because it believes that God periodically like reveals his messages, his divine messages through random messengers and things like that. But the thing is that they specifically advocate for racial unity, gender equality, universal education, and harmony of science and religion. They believe that God is transcendent and can't be known directly. God is known through the lives and teachings of his great prophets. And the thing is when Baha'i is one of these things where you can go and you'll have Christians and Catholics and Muslims and Buddhists, and they don't believe any one religion is a right religion. They just
Right, right,
believe that everybody should live in peace and try to be like the best person that they can possibly be. And
right.
like these random lessons and teachings come from normal everyday people that are chosen to like deliver these messages. And so I know we never hear about the Baha'i faith as I've never heard about it until I met this
Me
man.
neither.
But it's really great to look at. Not saying anyone has to like convert to their religion or whatever it is, but
Right.
I believe it's like a foundation of how I think spirituality should be, where you
Right.
don't have to be anything. As long
Right.
as you're trying to be the best person that you can be
Right.
and sharing your knowledge and sharing your, all that. I think it's an amazing, amazing kind of thing
Right.
that those Baha'i people, the Baha'i teachings have going on. And yeah, you never hear about it. Never hear about it. I've never heard about it.
Mm.
I really meant that.
Till right now. Till today I just heard about it. Like, oh shit,
It's so cool.
So what the hell is a spiritual awakening, you guys? It is guaranteed many of you are not there yet.
Yes.
Many of you are not there, but you're on the journey. If you're watching this show, you're on the journey. You just haven't got there yet.